you very much for that introduction, and thank you for the invitation to participate in today's session. Interestingly, we are participating on an online platform which is in part assisted by AI technology. I know lots of educators and lots of students are asking questions today about whether this is the future, whether in fact the face-to-face classroom is a thing of the past, and whether in fact we're going to find that the environments within which we work as teachers and learners are going to be heavily dedicated to AI. Let me just share my screen now. The topic for my talk today is AI and the community, sustainability and ethical teaching, learning ecosystem. What I want to do with this notion is to talk about the way in which AI has become part of the teaching and learning community, and to try and distill ways in which ethics will have an influence over the way in which AI develops learning environments in the future. Let's look at some quick ethical questions. A rich school has lots of AI information technology, and a poor school has very little to assist teaching the same curriculum. You could run your eyes over that slide and just see the different situations in which you might say that there are ethical questions raised by what schools do, by what environments for learning might do, what students can do, what teachers can do, and very, very heavily the importance of social media in the way in which students, particularly those who are in their teenage, construct their individual personalities becomes enormously important. We're doing some work at the moment on safe social media use, and in many respects, the environment that social media provides is an educational environment, but an environment which is very much open to exploitation and to unsafe behavior. Okay, ethical AI in education. It's not just about ensuring that AI tech is safe and risk-free. It's not just ensuring that teachers and students use AI and data in ethical ways. It's not just employing AI surveillance to keep students and teachers safe. It's not just training teachers and students in AI ethical principles, but it's creating safe digital spaces for teaching and learning. It's building bonds of trust between AI and people in education communities. And most of all, recognizing the responsibility of users to be conscious of the role they play in prioritizing personal data integrity through being informed about their data use and its consequences. Learning about AI and data. Just an important point to remember is that AI technology really is not the problem. The issue when we're talking about ethics is the application of data to AI technology. And that data application is the process whereby ethical decisions are made or ethical decisions are ignored. So presentation's purpose, why ethics? We're interested in trying to govern AI and data so that we have safe spaces in which to live and learn. This presents challenges of principle and challenges of use. We want to avoid this idea that ethics is just a bunch of nice sounding virtues, and think about how it can influence AI to build trust in communities, such as school communities where we have students, digital social spaces, teachers, parents, and beyond. And the importance of trust cannot be overemphasized. Who's responsible for all of this? Who is the, if you like, the individual or the institution that necessarily needs to ask the ethical questions? And why is ethical teaching learning more than making the AI in the classroom safe and risk-free? We talk about governing AI in terms of risk and safety, but we talk about it in a very contextual way. It's a holistic and interoperative understanding of governing AI and big data. We look at AI governance, the governance of the tech, and data governance, data protection, data quality, bias reduction, data injustice, and the power dynamics that exist between data subjects and data collectors, which, if I had time to take you into the complex realm of that issue, you would see how risky many of the relationships we have with data providers and data accessors. Why is ethics important for AI and data governance? Well, firstly, there are ethical challenges. Ethics alone is not enough. We've talked about black box systems and algorithms, which we often don't understand, that can produce discriminatory predictive outcomes. What entities are using AI? And do we know what our information is being used for? And then data-related challenges, which are the who, what, when, why, and how issues, particularly the how issue. How is our data being collected and used, whether we're students, teachers, parents, or those who have any direct interest in the educational environment? We propose from the centre a concept known as AI in community, where the AI creates a partnership with individuals using AI, so that it's not a question anymore of where is the human, but rather what is the relationship between the human and technology. So if you use the EU's 7 ethical guidelines and you expand them, human agency, technical robustness, privacy, transparency, diversity, non-discrimination and fairness, which is incredibly important in school settings, societal and environmental well-being, so that the AI creates a sustainable technology and a sustainable educational environment. And then there's the issue that was talked about by the first speaker, the idea of accountability and responsible decision-making. Ethics and the importance of trust. Ethical principles are should be designed to produce ethical decision-making. The design and deployment of ethics is important. It's not sufficient that ethical principles only ensure safety and reduce risk. There must be more than that. They also should influence what AI is deployed, when, how, and why. Who should be impacted by and benefited from AI and data use? Examples such as AI-assisted surveillance in school precincts, facial recognition, sensors to detect movements, the monitoring of student communication and information devices, all of which have a potential harmful impact on personal data space. Ethics in data use, AI for humans, ethical decisions in making and using AI and data. Google has become such a crucial, if you like, partner in the education process with information online and information delivery. Their ethical approach is to be socially beneficial, avoid creating or reinforcing unfair bias, build and test for safety, be accountable to people, incorporate privacy design principles, uphold high standards of scientific excellence, be made available for users that accord with these principles. But where is equity, fairness, transparency, and explainability in the Google approach? Some would say it's missing quite clearly from that series of principles that I just read out. Researching AI, why is it important? We do a lot of it. I won't focus on this because of the limitations of time, but if you are interested in finding out how the world governs AI and how Singapore governs AI, you might want to come to our website and have a look at the different governance processes, which can all be reduced down to the teaching and learning environment. Ethics, attribution, and distribution, whose responsibility? This is perhaps my most important slide. The responsibility of users, data subjects, responsible social media use needs to be trained and developed, discussed in the classroom and understood. Digital communities, young students in particular use chat groups and create their digital personality online. Parents and guardians, what can they do? They can listen to the concerns about safe use and safe space, rather than necessarily being too disciplinarian about what students should and shouldn't do. Teachers discussing and exploring the responsible use and risk benefit of AI. Schools, they should talk a little bit about the permanent digital footprint and the reputation of the student who moves on from school to other parts of their life in the future. Media information platforms, I wish they were much more concerned about, excuse me, protecting safe content and policing responsible use. The state, protecting against harm or punishing bad behavior. But all of these players have a responsibility together to bring about safe digital spaces. Ethical AI is not about machines, but about the use of tech and data. Finally, ethical education communities. Safe spaces to live and learn. Young people live in a digital world, and therefore we need to recognize that. Teaching and learning is a digital world in itself. Digital transformation means life after school is a digital world, so we need to be aware and ready for this. The responsible use of AI and data is important. Digital social responsibility must be trained and talked about in educational environments. Learning about digital commerce is incredibly important. The world of commerce, the world of finance is one where digital transactions will be the norm for students moving out into the real world. The social development goals of the UN need to be thought about. How can AI contribute? Having a say in AI deployment. Where should it go? Where should it be? Who should use it? And where should it not be? And demanding protection of personal data when privacy is exposed through social media. I look forward to the Q&A.